for joining us for another episode of Just Off College Avenue. Today we are going to be talking with the Academic Success Center about mentoring. So I'm going to go ahead and let each of them introduce themselves.
My name is Will Wagoner and I'm the director of the Academic Success Center.
My name is Kendra Sexton and I'm over a mentorship program in the Academic Success Center and also the Athletic Peer Coaching Program.
I'm Caitlyn. I'm a part of both of those programs and I'm a senior business administration major.
Can you all define mentor for the people who may not know and explain the relationship that they have with mentees?
I'll start with that, and I think when I think of a mentor, I think of a guide for students, and a mentor doesn't have to just be for a student, but I think it's important that we have mentors in the Success Center so that we can have students have that first initial guide or that first friend that they're going to make. You know, it can be kind of awkward in class to get to know new people, so I think it's good that we can help build programs that are going to allow us to do that outside of the classroom.
I would also say it's just like an extra support for them when they come in, that they don't really, sometimes when they come into college they don't have that support system, and that's what we want it to be, is a new support system for them.
I like that wordage, a support system.
I also think it's nice to have like a familiar face that's kind of older on campus, especially the first couple weeks. Like if you have some odd questions, you're familiar with them so you can ask them.
So what does having a mentor or being a mentor mean to you? Is there an impactful experience that you may have that you'd like to share a little bit more about?
I'm letting you do that.
Okay. Well, I've been a mentor for 3 years now, so I've been all over the place with freshmen as like a sophomore, junior, and senior. Being a mentor, I kind of like it just because it allows me to build relationships with them. And it's kind of funny, like when they see each other like on campus and it's like, oh, hey, and then their friends are like, who is that? Like, it's an older person, like how do you know them? So it's kind of funny doing that. The impactful experience, I would say, is just seeing everyone on campus, like my past ones from the past years, like they'll still say hi, and we'll still have conversations, check in with them. So I think that's nice.
I think one thing that I've seen, we do a mentorship program for students that are like in academic warning or academic probation. I've seen a lot of great relationships built through that, and then I've also seen students that really didn't have that support system and then actually got off the academic warning, and they're really successful now in college. But I think if they didn't have that mentor working with them, they probably wouldn't have come back the next semester. So I think that's the impact that it's making. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I'm also kind of looking at it from the perspective that Kendra is looking at it from, where sometimes we work with students that haven't really had that type of support in the past, whether it's like from family or community leader or just other friends. And when I was in college doing my undergraduate degree, I worked as the manager for the soccer team at my school, and I really wish that we had had a program like this. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start making sure that we offered these types of programs, because they weren't existing at UVA-wise. And I knew from my own experience that, you know, things like that would be really beneficial, and it's hard to do it when you're only one person or 2 or 3 people as a staff. So we wanted to make sure that there was a student-to-student experience, and they were going to get to hear from people who have actual experience at this school.
Yeah, so you've already talked a little bit about how it started coming to fruition, because you were saying like it was an important thing you had witnessed. Can you talk a little bit more about the details with that and maybe how it's evolved over the past couple of years?
Yeah, so in 2021, I started the Athletic Peer Coaching Program, and I wanted to do that because we were still in COVID times, and I wanted students to have a good way to be welcome to campus. I think back then too it was especially hard because there were still lots of restrictions, which was understandable given the state of the world, but I felt like it was really hard for students to meet other people. So we wanted to use the first year as like a trial run where we worked with 3 of our athletic teams and we've expanded it every year after that. And this is the second year now, 4 years later, that we've been working with every single freshman athlete that comes to campus. And last year was also the first time that we had a formal program for students that were on warning and probation as well. So we wanted to make sure that these services weren't just for specific students, but we wanted to make sure that we were helping as many students as we possibly could.
It's very smart. And I like that to see that you've expanded it, because not that all great things have come from COVID, but there have been some really awesome programming across campus and at other places from COVID. So it's nice to see that you took that as a perspective window to start the program and expand it.
So in 2023, we received a grant for Pell eligible freshmen that are paired with mentors on campus, and that is something that we're over now. It's called the Mentorship and Adaptability Program, or we call it the MAP. Right now, we just kind of we have events and we invite them out of campus and just try to get to know more students and more freshmen on campus.
And you've kind of been there as like in the mentor section, like as the past couple of years have gone by, what kind of evolutions have you seen that have been impactful, or you just been happy to see them happen?
I think we've tried like tweaking it a little bit every single year, so it's kind of nice to see like the evolution of that. I know this year we're doing like just a lot of events, and last year my favorite one was bowling. So it's kind of fun being like just there and being able to experience it and have people like come out of their shell to just see and be there. So
it is nice to be there kind of from the inception on, and you can be like, oh yes, I love the way it's evolving. Oh, good. And can you tell us more about how maybe mentors are utilized in the Academic Success Center, and is there a pairing process for the program?
So we've never done a pairing process. I think that would be a great idea, but our primary goal is just to make sure that every student that we're working with has a mentor, really just make sure everybody gets on the schedule in the end. But the mentors are all trained at the start of every semester, and that training usually goes through different things about, what kind of expectations we have for them, as well as what topics they're going to be working on with students, and we try to mix that up, like Caitlyn said, every semester, and students can voluntarily enroll in these programs through Kendra reaching out to students, but we also work with the athletic teams and contact them, and we meet with them at the beginning of every semester to talk about all the services in the Success Center, and we always work with the freshmen after those meetings to get them signed up for their athletic peer coaching meetings, and then those usually start 1 or 2 weeks into the semester, so that students have a little bit of time to get adjusted on their own, but they're not going to be totally in the woods by themselves. So we try to make sure that our mentors are prepared before they start working with students. And this year, for the first time, we actually have a Canvas page for all of our mentors, so all their materials are in one place and they can easily share it with students if they want any of the materials that we have.
That's awesome. Have any of the mentors that you currently have ever been mentees in the program?
Yeah, almost all of them, actually. So when I started the athletic peer coaching program 4 years ago, I hadn't really thought about that, but I realized pretty quickly that it was going to be a good way for students to come back to me and say, hey, this is a really good student. We think they'd be really good. And that's one of the nice things that we've seen through both the programs that we've worked in over the last couple of years, is it's a really good way for us to recruit students for the next year, and it makes it easier for us to hire students.
Yeah, I have a couple of mentors that are actually from the first cohort of the MAP. So they were in the first section, and then now they are mentors. So
yeah. I was a mentee my freshman year, and I'll always remember my mentor because we just had a good relationship. But
good. Are you still in contact with your mentor in some capacity?
If she ever comes back, like, we'll just say hi and have a conversation, but yeah.
Who did you have? Was it Sarah Moore? Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought it was. I remember Sarah would always tell me, she's like, Caitlyn's doing fine. Always, she has straight A's, so I was like, okay, that's great.
You're an easy mentee to have. That's always good. To have at least one who's like, you're like, they got it figured out, so we're doing good. So what role do mentors play for students and non-students or recent graduates? And is there any data that you guys have to back up the positive life experience that it may have?
So I'll talk about the data a little bit, and I think the two biggest data points that I can think of off the top of my head are through the athletic peer coaching program. We've worked with more than 200 students over the last 4 years, and I don't know the exact number, but somewhere between 80 and 90% of those students are still enrolled at the college. And we just had the first group of mentees graduate. It was a group of 20 students, and 15 of them have graduated, with one more set to graduate pretty soon. So I think that's really important for us to show people that, you know, when we have programs set up where students can connect with people early on, that they're more likely to graduate, and that looks good from a retention perspective, but it also looks good, I think, internally, because we can turn around and say what we're doing is working. And then the other thing that I want to mention is probably about 25 to 30% of the students that have came through the program have ended up working for us in one way or another, which is great, because we want to make sure that students aren't just getting the academic skills to succeed, but the life skills as well. And I think having a part-time job and having pretty good pay for it, you know, even if it's just for pizza or gas money for students, it makes a difference. So we're trying to make sure that we're not just making the difference in the school, but in their lives as well.
And I would say last spring we had like 30 students that worked with us that were on academic warning, and at least 10 of those that actively worked with us rehabilitated their grades and got back on. But that was our first semester actually working with academic warning students, so I feel like that was a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'll add to that of course we would like that number to be higher, but the bigger data point that I remember is there were about 40 total students that were on academic warning last spring, and I felt like being able to work with 30 of them was pretty good, because we never tried that before. So you know, being able to work with 75% of those students, I think, was a really big step in the right direction for us as a success center.
I think so too. The numbers that you've given are very impressive, considering the inception of the program was in 21, and a lot of programs that initially start, they don't have those good of numbers just in the first 3 to 4 years out. So first of all, congratulations.
I think it really helps that overall, between like tutoring and the academic coaching that we do, the vast majority of students that we work with are freshmen. And one thing that Kendra and I try to do is we go to every orientation over the summer. So I think, you know, being able to explain to students, hey, here are the services are available before they've even started classes, I think has really helped. And this summer we definitely noticed that a lot of new student athletes' parents asked us, hey, what support do you have specifically for our students? And luckily we were able to answer those questions, and I know you developed a pretty good relationship with some of those parents pretty fast. And, you know, thinking back on it now, some of those students are our hardest working freshmen. So we're not just trying to build that relationship, you know, once they get here, but most kids have seen us 2 or 3 times before they even start classes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like, with this fall cohort, because we're working with well over 100 students. So that's 100 athletes that our mentors are working with. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, our retention and, like, what they got out of it and the success they will have.
Yeah, because that's a large portion of our incoming class, like 100.
It really is.
That's a good chunk.
And a lot of them, it is mandatory, but a lot of them really have shown up to all their meetings. They've been great about doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that people miss their meetings, to be honest. So, and I think that's great, especially when, like, I'm glad Kendra mentioned it, that we've worked with more than 100 students, specifically through mentoring already. And it's easily the most number of students that we've worked with in one semester for this specific program.
Yeah. Well, what kind of advice would you all give to someone who is trying to obtain a mentor, but maybe they don't know or they don't qualify for your program? and they're just trying to find someone who would be a good fit to help them?
I think no matter what, we don't ever turn anyone down in the Academic Success Center. So like if they're interested, they just come to us and ask for a mentor. No matter what, no matter if they're Pell eligible or not, if they're an athlete or not, they are welcome, and they're welcome to join them and have a mentor.
This is it's building off of that previous question, but do either of you have a mentor that you've had recently? Maybe the relationship has ended now, your mentoring has ended with them, or it's still continuing in your own lives. So, or one that was impactful for you that kind of makes you passionate about the work that you do.
I would say Narda Porter, who's the registrar of this college, is probably one of my biggest mentors. I still remember when I met her, when I interviewed for working here at UVA-Wise, and I felt like that was pretty important that, she took 5 minutes to meet me during my interview, and that kind of told me a lot about her as a person. And, I think one of the biggest things about mentoring is being able to share your own experiences. And, I try to look at what Narda does, and I think, man, I'm never as busy as she is. And she always has time to answer my questions, whether it's about, something personal or something professional. And I think that's, really what we want our students to be able to do as well, especially because we want to make sure they're not, staring at a screen all day, and they can actually talk to each other. And being able to pick up the phone or walk over to Narda's office at pretty much any time has been really helpful to me since I've worked here, because I consider her to be like the guru of our college in pretty much anything. So it's been pretty important for me to be able to work with her, especially because she knows our students so well, and she knows a lot about like the technical processes that our students may not always know about too.
I think just in general in life, and I know this is like cheesy, but my mom is my mentor. Like I can always bounce ideas off of her and ask her questions related kind of just to life and what she done in her experience with workforce and things like that. So that's just my mentor is my mom.
That's a good one to have.
I would say my mentors are just all my friends. Like, I just ask them a bunch of random questions. And some answers are the same, some are different, but it's a lot of different point of views, and that's what I like.
That's good, and they're ongoing, so it's like anytime.
They can't leave me, so.
Last question is specifically for you, Caitlyn. However, it's open to you all if you have good perspectives you want to put in. So can you speak more on the student perspective on mentoring through the Academic Success Center and what impact that's had on you since you've been here?
So from the student perspective, I try to make it more of like, seem like a friendship. Like, I'm not just checking in on them, like trying to guide them through the college, but like outside of college too, like their social life, their free time. I help a bunch with like their practices if they're feeling like overwhelmed with classes, practices, and whatnot. So I think it's just like an all-around friendship, kind of like you're just trying to build the relationship with them. Some impact that I had when I was a freshman was just, it was nice to see someone like older, and it kind of made me branch out from my team, because I know as freshmen when you come in on a team, it's kind of like just them, like you kind of don't want to branch out, but it kind of made me branch out to other teams too, since they were all from different teams. So I think that's it, but I think the impact of student perspective would be, it's huge, kind of, especially coming in. You don't really know much, and especially some people don't have people to ask, like their parents or anything. So I think it's huge to have someone older being able to just talk to you about anything.
You got like that world expansion really quick, right? You're like, now my circle is bigger. This is where I'll open it up to you all. If there's anything else that maybe I didn't cover or you wanted to talk about and didn't get to, I'll let you.
Okay. Yeah. I think something that, we always talk about is, we have like these targeted groups that we work with, whether it's like athletes or students that are receiving a Pell Grant. But like Kendra said, we never want those services to only be for targeted groups. I think it's important that as the Success Center continues to grow, we stay true to ourselves and make sure that the services we offer are open to all students, not just those that are struggling. And that's one thing that Kendra and I have started talking about in terms of, not necessarily like 3 to 5 year plan, but if we were to think of that, then I think that's a big goal, is, to make sure that we have more academic coaches, because that way we have a little bit of a bigger staff so that we're not just trying to like file students through a profile, so to speak. But I think that's one thing that we're looking at in terms of expanding what we do and how to sustain that. And we're really excited to bring those things out in the future, because we know that our enrollment is growing as a college, and we want to make sure that we can keep up with that pace with everything we do.
I think just good advice for students that are watching this is to always find like a good balance, whether it be studying or having a mentor. Just kind of enjoy this time in life, not just like study or not study, but just have a good balance going through everything and enjoy this time in life.
Oh yeah, because there's a lot of experiences that you can have in college that once you get out, you're not going to have the opportunity. Yeah, or like the grace to mess up, right? You don't get that either, or to try a new club. You won't have. You need to kind of be like dedicated after that point.
Caitlyn, do you want to talk about your internship over the summer and how we're now building that into our programs?
Yeah. So this summer I was a financial representative for Northwestern Mutual. It allowed like a broad area of insurance, investments, risk and wealth management, everything under that umbrella. But we worked with Will this summer, me and an advisor, and we were able to learn a lot from him, and he was able to learn a lot from us. We have a workshop that everyone can come to about financial help and advising. Especially it's tailored to college students, so what you might want to know in college about finance.
Yeah, I think that's something that we want to always make sure is that, I think it's important that students do hear from us about things like time management and study skills, but there's only so many minutes that you can talk about that before you start wondering about someone else. So we want to make sure that, even if we're not necessarily the ones that are putting on these types of things, we want those opportunities to be available for students, and I think it's really great when they're also going to be able to get to hear from a student that has done that, because it might lead those students to want to obtain that internship in the future, or have them ask questions that they were never going to ask before, because that's what I did when Caitlyn told me about it. And we want to make sure that our students get a wide variety of experiences while they're here, not just in the classroom.
I agree with that. The world experience that you can gain is invaluable, even if it's not in the field that you want to be in long term. Because you're getting experience in the mentoring realm, which is kind of on the education side, and maybe you're not going into education, but the skills that you have will build you up in the field you want to be in. So, to keep students curious, what has been in your realm that you would like to share so that maybe they can check out? It can be a book, podcast, could be theater related, could just be, of a group, an organization in the area that's doing some awesome work that they should check out.
So I'll go first. We went to visit a freshman seminar class a few weeks ago, and the instructor of that class asked us, even though you're no longer in school, do you still find yourself studying? And personally, my answer to that is no, but I do still find myself learning. And one thing I talked about with students was, if you need to prevent yourself from not doom scrolling through your social media, one thing that I try to do instead is I go on YouTube and I watch history videos. So anything about World War II or Alexander the Great, I'm probably going to watch it. And for me, that's a lot healthier for my brain than watching AI-made videos on TikTok. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to kind of keep myself not necessarily up to date with things, but still kind of give myself a little bit of a challenge to either remember that or to learn about it. And it's about something that's real. And even if it's not something I'm going to use, it's better for my brain, so that I'm not, just, looking at junk all the time, looking at things that, I'm not going to remember, I'm going to forget 5 seconds later. So I try to speak about things like that with our students, so that they can try to form their own good habits.
That's a good recommendation. I don't know if you've watched Tasting History with Max Miller. Do I ever make the recipes? No, but it's nice to see these different historical ways to make foods. Yes.
I'll have to check that out. That
Yeah.
sounds cool.
Yes.
I'm not a very good cook, but I might have to check it
like
out.
I said, we don't make them, but I like to watch, and because he gives you a lot of history perspective in the meantime, so it's good.
I think a podcast I listen to is the Dating Detectives, and this is the most random. I don't even know what I'm talking about this, but it is so funny to see people talk about their catfishing experiences and things they've went through, and it's just like, people do that to people, so that's what I listen to.
I like that. It's something that's kind of out there and fun, so you don't have to think too hard.
It is, and then it's crazy sometimes. So just to listen to people's stories and things. So
I kind of do that. I only listen to crime stuff or something like that. So that's all I really watch.
Is there any particular program that you prefer?
No, I watch them all.
Fine, that's fine. We watch sometimes. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get it. Murder Mystery with Bailey Sarian, because she'll be doing her makeup and then talking about a murder mystery, and I love watching that. So yeah. Thank you all so much for coming and giving your perspectives, your information about mentoring, and you are welcome anytime you want to come back and talk about something different, or elaborate more if you got more projects going on. Just feel free.
We would love to.
Yeah, thank you all. And thank everyone for joining us for another episode of Just Off College Avenue. Some of the things that we've already spoken about today are going to be in the description below, so feel free to check that out. And I hope you all have a great day. Bye.
bye.